This week on the Baseline Podcast, Josh and I discuss the weekend of football. We cover both the NFL and college football. Specifically, we talk about the Browns' collapse, and you hear a rant from Ben that will go on for the ages. And then we talk about college football, all the ups and downs from it. We talk about Josh's first experience at an Ohio State football game. Which was better, Michigan football game or Ohio State football game? You'll hear it from him, and so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. We are back. That's Josh. I'm Ben. It's light outside, which means that we're recording this on a normal hour for me at least. But we are back and we're excited to talk about everything football. This is the first episode since football season started that we can actually legit discuss everything, and it's going to get released at a decent time before everything else goes to haywire. So we're excited. Josh, how's your day been? How's your weekend? Yeah,
dude, it's crazy that we're getting to record on a Monday, man. Just my work schedule coming together and everything. And we get to talk about all these games. Last week was such a great college football week and since we didn't get to record until later, it was like, well, everything that's been said has already been said and we don't really have anything to add to it. Yeah. But now we can be right in line with all the other big shows, all the other big podcasts, giving our thoughts on what happened. It's going to be coming out at the same time. So I think this is about as excited as we're going to be this episode, because we are starting off with what other than disappointment.
You know, it is a lot of disappointment that I'm about to go out on. And just so you know, if you're all watching and you see this random person just kind of come to the background, it's just my wife. So she just comes in and goes, normally we record this at night, like we said, Josh. And so this is new for both of us. Yeah. But anyways,
hey, usually I'm the one that's ranting, but Ben actually has a rant prepared today. And before he gets into it, I just want to start off by saying I'm disappointed that I didn't pick the Jets to win this game, so I could at least be tied with Ben and Browns pick them 1-1.
Let's go.
We both failed in this one.
I'm 1-1 this year. You're 0-2.
Yeah, one of these days I gotta pick different than you so I can try to get that comeback, or I could go the opposite way and fall 2 games back. So this was, dude, I don't know, man. Joe Flacco doesn't lose to the Browns ever, no matter what team he's on. But let me kick it over to you, Ben. You actually got to watch the game. I think I worked all day. But as I was at work, I was getting notifications of Nick Chubb touchdowns for my fantasy team. So I figured things were going good. Yeah. But that is not the case. 31-30 loss to the lowly New York Jets.
Yeah. You know, Josh, as a Browns fan, I'm used to these weird losses. And if you would have told me this would have happened a few years ago, I'd been like, hey, it's okay. Whatever. We lost to the Jets. Rough game, whatever. But now I expect this team to win. They put a lot of money in this team. They've put a lot of talent on this team. This team should win week in and week out. Even without Deshaun Watson, this team is still capable. They have the best running back duo in the NFL. But here's where my rant starts, Josh. How on earth are you up 13 points, Joe Woods, and you give up 14 points in a minute 30? All you have to do is just literally make one stop. Force them inbounds. They have no timeouts, nothing. And yet constantly this Browns team, it seems like for years now, they go to this zone defense, prevent defense that just literally gives holes for Garrett Wilson. I love Garrett Wilson. Love you. Hated you yesterday. Literally finds holes in the defense. Barrios found holes. Their running backs found holes. And it's so frustrating because this team is so much better than the 2 back-to-back games where they've had to rely on the end of the game to win. And they lost yesterday because you could look even at Nick Chubb. You don't need that extra touchdown. Just literally lie down. It runs the clock down to about nothing. But I have more to say, but Josh, take over before I just about break my table.
I don't know. It's not even just the Browns, dude. How many times have we seen the NFL when a team is marching on the field, they're playing prevent defense as if that has worked every single time it's ever been used. And while you're running prevent defense, the idea is you're not going to give up a 70-yard touchdown. If you give up a 10-yard play, no big deal. You didn't give up the big score.
Yeah.
But Corey Davis somehow burned the Browns prevent defense for a 66-yard bomb with a blown coverage. No Brown in sight, dude. I don't know who blew that assignment. I heard a lot of hate for Denzel Ward on Twitter, so it sounds like he had a rough day. And by reading the stat lines of Davis and Garrett Wilson, yeah, the whole secondary as a whole didn't play too good. But On the flip side, Jacoby Brissett played, I think, the game of his life. I don't think you
Yeah.
could ask for a much better game than 22 of 27, 229 yards and a touchdown from that dude. Nick Chubb rushing 87 yards and 3 touchdowns. I would have assumed that that meant that we won the game. But let me point another glaring stat to you, Ben. We just talked about how great the Jets wide receivers were. On the Browns side, Amari Cooper had 9 catches for 101 yards and a touchdown. And the rest of the Browns wide receivers, not just pass catchers, I'm talking about the wide receiver room specifically, combined for 2 catches for 9 yards. And that's if we're counting Demetric Felton, who's more of a running back, as a wide receiver. Because if you took him out, then David Bell has 1 catch for 6 yards, and that's the rest of the wide receiver room. Donovan Peoples-Jones, nothing. Anthony Schwartz, I don't know if he was healthy yesterday, but nothing. It was the tight ends and the running backs that Brissett was having to use. And we're going to need to see the wide receivers step up eventually, dude. So that's another thing that I noticed. And then Katie York, man, the hero of week 1.
You said this.
I said that this just means that eventually he's going to miss a really easy kick down the road that's going to cost us. And I mean, that point after, man, it could have sent the game to overtime, that last Jets touchdown, and maybe Browns pulled off an OT, but those are just, and I'm not going to pin the whole loss on Cade York. I think it was ultimately the defense giving up 2 touchdowns in a minute 30, but it's just like, man, every area that we could have blown it, they managed to do it.
Yeah, and I'll say this. It seems like I'm very frustrated, and you're right. I am extremely angry because it's like this team, these first 4 games are the most important games for the whole year, because if you can win these 4 games, that's when the schedule starts getting harder. You can go 4-0.
They're the easiest.
You can get.
We don't have
wins.
Deshaun Watson,
exactly.
So these first 4 that are super easy, and we've been beating this drum. They're must-win games, because once we get to those playoff contenders, that grind from like week 5 to week 15, where we're not going to have Watson for most of that run, that means that these easy cupcake games to start off are that much more important to win, because we're going to lose more games as the season goes on. And this was one that they definitely need to win, and I think it's going to ultimately cost them down the road.
Yeah, and I think another thing too is that, you look at the offense right now. The offense didn't play great at the end of that game last week. I think they played very well this week. Chubb looked like the Chubb of always, as I call it, and Hunt did well as well. But I guess for me, it's so frustrating to see these DBs that I'm so concerned about now. I didn't think I would be, but
Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome is a top 5 corner duo.
It should be,
in the
but
league.
the thing, it should be. But it feels like lately in the last 2 games, and you look at last week, the Carolina beat him for a 60-yard touchdown with Anderson. And so it just seems like Browns, all you have to do is just get a couple stops. They win both these games easily if they do that. And so for me, I think, I could blame it on Cade York, but like, let's be honest, you're already up 13. Like, you don't think in a minute 30 that you can lose this game.
And if he makes the extra point, we're still going to overtime, and maybe we still lose in overtime anyways. There's just way more to point to, but you can point to Cade York being a contributing factor.
Yeah. And so I don't know. Josh, I want to ask you this question. Does Joe Woods keep his job much longer? That's my question.
I mean, he's kept it this long, right? This isn't anything new. This is, what Joe Woods does,
classic.
Ben. This isn't anything new, right? Like with Kevin Stefanski's play calling, we saw a night and day difference between the year we went to the playoffs and then last season, where we were doing a lot more passing with an injured quarterback, avoiding giving Nick Chubb the ball. It was just drastic, right? So with Joe Woods, this is just kind of what I expect to see from him, our defensive coordinator. The same play calling, the same mistakes, the same failing prevent defense that never works. It's just, he's kept his job this long. I don't know what it's going to take for him to actually lose it.
Yeah, I just, my dad, if you ask my dad, Dad, I know you're listening, my dad just thinks he should be gone tomorrow.
And I'm sure there's other diehard Browns fans that are even more diehard than us that'll point to the fact that the Browns were like 7th in scoring defense last year, and then say that that's a credit to Joe Woods.
Exactly.
Which, the unit as a whole has done great relatively to the league, right? But there's also so much success we're missing out on. I think that Joe Woods is, we've done this in spite of Joe Woods, honestly.
Yeah, and I think, Garrett, I am worried that Clowney might be out for a while, which could really hurt that Browns defensive line, because Garrett has looked like an all-pro so far.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of him, that defensive tackles are a big glaring issue for me. There is no one there playing their quality ball. the safety issue, I don't know why it's an issue. It shouldn't be an issue, but it seems like an issue. The linebackers have not been playing up to what the standard should be for a playoff team. And so then you look on the offenses of the ball. I go back to your wide receiver thing. I said this from day one. I felt like they needed to draft a wide receiver that's better than
Yeah.
David Bell. We've both said this. We said you had so many guys sitting there in the draft that you could have picked up. You could have traded up to get Olave, to get who else, name it. We could have got all these different guys we could have traded up to get. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. I think that Stefanski has to go in to the front office and be like, hey, we need to make a trade or something. I would love them to get some veteran help of some sort, because I don't think this team, like my dad said, he goes, I don't think this team will win many games with a defense like that and very little production from the wide receivers. I really struggle to see that.
I mean, with Brissett, we saw this when he was with the Colts. The tight ends are going to get utilized a lot more, right? Yeah. Harrison Bryant got 3 catches. David Njoku, 3 catches. The backs each got a couple catches. But I have to believe, Ben, that the reason the wide receivers aren't getting many touches is because they're just not doing their job. I mean, if they're open, I'm sure Brissett's going to would much rather throw a 10, 15-yard pass to one of our wide receivers than a little check down to a tight end or a running back. But I mean, this was a concern, like you said, at the start of the season. We kind of saw this happening, but I didn't think it'd be this bad, or at least this much of a load being carried by Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah, it's going to be, I love Njoku. I love Bryant. I think both of them are very underrated in their position. I think they're both going to be very good this year. But do you really want to rely on tight ends and running backs to be your main pass catchers? That's where you got to make a decision. But again, looking forward to this coming short week, which we play the Steelers literally on Thursday. When this comes out, you'll probably be like literally about to watch the game in a day or so. I am very concerned of what this defense will do. How do you get them ready on a short week? How do you, these kind of things come to mind? And if you're Brissett, you have to look at your game and go, okay, we held in there. To be honest, if you think about if he doesn't throw that pick at the end of the game, they might have gotten to field goal range. So Brissett did everything he could. I just feel like he needs to do something just a little bit more. And I don't know what that is. But I do agree with Stefanski. He's been running the ball this year. Josh, we're so happy, right, that he's finally running the ball. But yes. So any final thoughts on the Browns-Jets game? I also give credit to the Jets. They claim back. I don't like Joe Flacco. I think he's really overrated, but I'm very angry. But hey, he doesn't lose the Browns. It's just a fact.
Flacco didn't lose the Browns. I'm the type of fan that if my team lost, it's definitely everything on my team's fault, especially when you're giving up 2 scores in the last minute and a half. Like, I'm not going to give any credit to the other team. I'm just going to crap all over my team and then call you out if you try to do any crapping on my team as a result. Like, if you try to say, well, it was the Jets did a little bit. It's like, no, you don't understand, dude. The Browns just sucked. They threw that game away. That's the kind of fan I am usually.
Garrett Wilson looked amazing, by the way.
They grow up so fast, don't they? One week they're winning your team Big Ten championships, right? And then the next they're defeating your pro team in the league, man. Yeah,
I know, and it's crazy because also, man, my man Sauce didn't have too bad of a game. He got injured though. I think he had an okay game.
Which wide receiver was he lined up on? One of the ones that didn't get a catch?
I think they switched a lot though. I don't know if they played. I mean, he was on Cooper a lot. So yeah, if you look at that, then yeah, he didn't have a great, but there was a lot of times where he was moving as well with the defense. So
yeah, I think you can say that the corners as a whole had a successful day, given that Cooper's really the only one that had any catches.
Exactly.
But yeah. And I guess if you're trying to look at the bright side anyway whatsoever, Ben, in terms of the landscape of the entire season, the AFC North
suck.
All lost. So it's not like we fell behind any more than we would have, because Baltimore, Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh all suffered losses too. And why don't we start off with that Cincinnati loss?
Let's do it. I'm so
now
Jared,
the Bengals.
Jared, you're 0-2, Jared. You're 0-2, Jared. Just listen to me right now. You are 0-2. I don't want to hear it. Don't blame me. Like, you blew a game. You haven't won a game. So suck it. Sorry.
And on that, Ben, the Bengals became the first team to start off 0-2 since reaching the Super Bowl since 2015 Seahawks.
And we all know what happened there.
We do. And this is a game we pointed to last week too, because we saw how bad the Bengals played week 1. We saw the Cowboys struggle against Tampa Bay. And then with Dak being injured, we were like, okay, both these teams have something to prove week 2. Who's going to show up? And I'm going to go ahead and say credit to the Dallas defense
Yes.
because they held Joe Burrow under 200 yards in just one touchdown pass. I mean, Cooper Rush, Dallas quarterback filling in for Dak, wasn't much of anything impressive. He had a similar stat line to Dak, right? I think he had a touchdown, about 230-something yards, but it was a little bit better than what Joe Burrow did. And then Dallas gets the field goal at the end as time expires to win. So Dallas moves on to 1-1. Cincinnati stays at the bottom of the division at 0-2. Anything shock you about this game, Ben? I don't know if you got to watch it at all, but just from reading the box score, it looked like Dallas's defense had a good game.
I watched the highlights. It is interesting to me because I think the Bengals, it's like, is it me, or do you feel like the Bengals have just kind of, I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. We mentioned this last week too. The one thing that they needed to fix in the offseason was the offensive line, and we thought they did that through the draft and free agency. But Joe Burrow's already been sacked 13 times in 2 games. 7 sacks that first game, and then Dallas got to him 6 times yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure out how I feel. Like, just, it's interesting to me because I think about the Bengals, and I thought they really had kind of figured this out, right? Like that. I think making the Super Bowl, and I said this last week, I thought they were a little early making the Super Bowl, and I know Bengals fans are gonna be like, oh, it's early. I'm like, yeah, but you're 0-2 and you lost to teams that, like, I feel like you shouldn't have lost to, and especially to the Cowboys, who didn't have their starting quarterback. And I feel like the Bengals defense has looked a little sus, as they would say in the modern age. And so for me, like, I feel like that's a little bit of an interesting thing. And again, I think Burrow struggling is really worrisome. I think you can attest to that too, as someone that's watched football a lot, that when you go from a Super Bowl to like what's going on now, it's very interesting to me what is happening. I really don't know what is happening, but I hope that it gets figured out, because I think I want the AFC North to be competitive. And look at the Ravens. They blew a big game, which they gave up. Their defense looked like not a Baltimore defense. They gave up so many passing yards. And you look at the Steelers. The Steelers they're struggling, but they're kind of the down team of the AFC North. But you look at the Bengals, and it's like you should be at least 1-1, at least. But I'm very shocked if I look at the stats here. It's interesting. What are some things you stuck out to you about Cooper Rush? Because I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on Cooper Rush.
I mean, he kind of just I guess did what
a
you hope a
thing.
backup quarterback could do, right? He had not exactly, but pretty similar line to what Jacoby Brissett had. Did not do anything to keep his team from losing the game. I also was listening to Menace to Sports, their NFL reaction show, and Zach was talking about how he felt like he was back coaching at Ohio State again, the way that Noah Brown was torching Eli Apple play after play. He's like, this. I just felt like it was, Monday afternoon at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center again back in the day. Noah Brown torching Eli Apple, nothing new.
I mean, speak of Noah Brown. I mean, 5 catches, 91 yards, a touchdown. This guy comes from 2 years ago where he was barely playing for the Cowboys, barely getting touches, and now he's like, with injuries and stuff, he's become this guy that they go throw to. And I look at the Bengals, and you look at Joe Mixon. Hey, Jared, I thought you said Joe Mixon was like one of the best running backs in the NFL, because 19 carries for 57 yards is not, and again, credit to the Cowboys defense, but I don't think Joe Mixon's looked like himself this year.
Yeah, and maybe that plays into the offensive line again, dude, because they're allowing just as many sacks on Burrow, and if Mixon ain't getting any holes to run through, then maybe this whole thing is related to the offensive line.
Yeah, and I mean Dallas had what, 3 sacks? It looks like. I think they had 3 sacks.
I think they had 6. I think they sacked Burrow 6 times.
Yeah, 6. Sorry, I missed double there. Yeah, so 6 times, 2, 4, 5, 6 times. Burrow,
and these were all issues that were there last year. Joe was just figuring out a way to either avoid the pressure or still be able to sling it downfield, and at least so far, he hasn't figured out how to do that yet.
Yeah, it is it's very interesting to see, and I'm interested to see how the Bengals bounce back. Jared, let me know. Let us know in the comments. Who do you think will have a better overall season by the end of the season, the Bengals or the Browns? Let us know in the comments. Man. Jared, let me know. I know what you'll say. But
didn't think that'd be a legit discussion heading into week 3.
I didn't either, but it can literally be a legit discussion.
It could be.
now.
But this was a game that a solid matchup, right, between Miami and Baltimore. It wasn't one that I was saying was must see necessarily
Yeah.
out of like the 3 or 4 that I mentioned. But since you already brought it up, Ben, I mean, Baltimore led 35-14 after 3 quarters. Dolphins put up 28 in the fourth and come away with a 42-38 win. Tua, 469 yards and 6 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jalen Waddle, 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. We talked about how bad the Browns' fourth quarter defense was in that last 90 seconds. Who had a worse fourth quarter defensively here?
Ooh. Ooh.
Because Baltimore allowed the most total points in a quarter, but
Yeah.
if you're looking at like a short stint of 90 seconds, the Browns were technically worse against an even worse offense. Like the Dolphins' offense was one that people were saying could
Yeah.
explode, right? Maybe I was wrong about the Dolphins too, Ben, because they're 2-0 right now, and they were one of those teams that I said everyone's high on the Dolphins. I'm going to say that they're going to totally flop this year. They haven't done anything like that whatsoever.
Yeah, it is very interesting to me because I think that's a great question.
I didn't watch either game, so I
But this is
can't
the thing,
say.
though. I would say, like, I don't want to be biased and say it wasn't the Browns, but I truly believe, though, that like the Browns was bad, and you know what? I'm really leaning towards the Browns. I mean, the Ravens, that's atrocious. Like, you shouldn't like literally blow. Like, how does that? Like, that's my
28 in the
both of.
fourth. Like, is that like when Justin Herbert lit him up last year, the Browns?
I think that's what it's
Similar
like. Really,
situation.
yeah. But I think Lamar Jackson, like, and also the Ravens can't run the ball. Have you seen? Like, it's literally Lamar Jackson or no one.
Lamar actually had a heck of a day too, dude. He had 318 pass yards, 119 rush yards,
I
4 total
know.
touchdowns. He became the first NFL quarterback to have a passing and rushing touchdown of 75 yards in a game. And he passed Michael Vick for most 100-yard rush games by a quarterback too, and completely overshadowed by this defensive
I
collapse.
know. It's shocking to me, and I'm really just it's bizarre, man. I'm telling you, it's just to see the Ravens defense, like see the Browns defense do this. We're used to it. We're Browns fans, but to see the Ravens defense do this,
Right. And we
it's
were talking
unheard
about
of.
how the Ravens defense was going to take it up a notch this year with the pieces that they added in the offseason and the draft. Their starting corners were going to be fully healthy, unlike last year with all the ACL injuries. And man, dude, I mean, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are fast, but if they can continue to put up performances like this, man, maybe Miami's that actual scary team, man. Maybe they're
Yeah,
legit.
I'm really Miami is scared. I mean, also the fact that Tyreek Hill is just a dominating force. By the way, he's just unreal. Like the guy is just the fastest man I've ever seen play football by far.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm interested to see what happens and all that. But what do you think? What any other games that popped out to you? We could talk. I mean, there's also another team that blew a lead. What it just seemed like that was happening on Sunday.
Yeah.
Any other games you want to talk about?
Yeah, we'll just hit on the ones that I mentioned again last week. The 49ers Seahawks, that didn't end up really being all that interesting other than Trey Lance out for the season. So a good thing that they held on to Jimmy Garoppolo, dude.
Dude, I know. That's huge.
Yeah, and then the Bucks Saints game, the over under line on that was 44. I would have told you that's definitely going over, but it ended up being way under with a Bucks 20-10 win. No Godwin or Julio Jones here. So with all the pressure being on Mike Evans, Ben, he gets locked up by Marshawn Lynch, possibly frustrated, ejected later in the game. That's something that we've kind of seen. Marshawn Lattimore does really good on Mike Evans. But also Tom Brady, dude, through 2 games, they are 2-0, but he's only had 402 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick in those games. That was maybe a stat line from a game last year through 3 quarters for Tom Brady with how he's played. But this year, the team has been winning strongly by their defense. They held Dallas to 3 last week. They hold the Saints, who I am very high on, to 10 points this week. And now we're hearing that Tom Brady's going to start getting veteran rest days every Wednesday. It's like,
Oh my
what the heck
goodness.
is this? Did he not do anything to get ready in the offseason? I know that's a stupid question to ask because Tom Brady's Tom. Nobody prepares better than him. But at least right now, the numbers that he's putting up, he's starting to kind of look like maybe he should have just stayed in retirement. Even though the Bucks are winning, they're doing it not really because of him.
Yeah, I'm interested about the fight. It's funny though, involved an Ohio State guy. It's just really funny. But no, I mean, The Saints, I'm still high on the Saints. I
Me
think,
too.
yeah, I think they'll be
I
good.
can't believe how good Tampa's defense.
Olave looked really good. He had like 5 catches for 80
Yeah,
yards or
he was
something
the
like
leading
that.
receiver.
Yeah, he had a really good day. By the way, the former high state wide receivers had like 20 catches for like 500 some yards. By the way,
Samuel had a
combined.
good day.
McLaurin, I think, had a good day as
Michael
well.
Thomas, Olave, Garrett Wilson, Noah
They just look
Brown.
good. I'm just telling you. I'm just saying. But anyways, going back on that game, I'll be honest. This is the first time I looked at Tom Brady and go, "You're old." Like, this is the first time I've truly said, like, he looks like he's 45. Like, he really does. And I think this might be where I think we're going to see Tom. And I hate to say that. I feel terrible every time I say this, but I feel like this could be the season where we start seeing Tom die off a little bit. He's starting to rely on the run game more. He's starting to rely on the defense. He broke another Surface Pro thingy madob again. I'm very shocked. I just don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. But it just doesn't look like Tom Brady, man. I don't feel like I'm watching this and going, "That's Tom Brady."
Yeah, and I feel like this has been said a lot before, right? When Tom Brady's Patriots teams would start off slow, people would say, "All right, this is the year that he falls off the cliff," and then he just comes back in the middle of the season, finishes strong, proves you wrong. So, I mean, I'm definitely watching it a little bit more. I thought Tom would be starting off a little hotter than he has right now, and we just talked about how good Dallas's defense was, right, against Cincinnati. So this is 2 times that the Dallas defense has held what we feel like are some of the best offenses in the country under 20 points. So that could be playing a factor into that. Time will tell how strong the Saints defense actually is. But yeah, I think we've come to expect more from Tom Brady, rightfully so. And that's going to be something to keep an eye on as the Bucs season goes on. But that's pretty much a wrap of the NFL. Like I said, there's so much that we could talk about, Ben, but we only got like an hour and a half for this episode. We got to talk about the college games too.
Dude, college games, amazing.
Yeah. Before we get into any of those games, though, last week we were talking about which major program was going to fire their head coach next. And while it wasn't a major program and not even technically a firing, one to point out, Herm Edwards is out at Arizona State as the head coach per a mutual agreement to step down, which is just the athletic director saying, "We're going to fire you.
You're fired."
But
do you want to say
no, you can't fire me. I quit.
I quit.
Yeah. So that investigation has been going on over there for a year with all the illegal recruiting. Apparently they've been getting rewarded for breaking rules too. So I don't know who's going to want to take that job, especially when a death penalty is probably coming to the school of some kind. But just wanted to throw that out there.
You hate to see it for Herm too, though. Like, I remember watching Herm.
Herm started off really good at Arizona State, dude. Now with this investigation, it's coming out like, he was doing so good because he was cheating.
Do you feel like he just was too old school for the new game?
Maybe a little bit of that, but he started off so good too, dude. But now we're seeing that that's just because he was cheating and recruiting and doing things you're not supposed to do. But that was kind of interesting seeing how he maybe faded out of the NFL for not being able to maintain with the times, right? So then the one thing that you can't do then, therefore, would be to coach the college game, which is even harder to do. Like, if you can't coach in the NFL, I feel like it's even harder to coach college. But some people do better at college than the pro. Like, they're just wired differently. And maybe Herm being more of an old school guy, like, yeah, maybe it wasn't the best fit, but hate to see it end that way.
I also saw too, not just Herm, but also the Nebraska defense coordinator was fired. So
yeah.
We're just racking up the firings there in Nebraska. But no,
Oklahoma put up 42 on him. So
why don't we start there? Why don't we start there? Right? Let's start at Oklahoma and Nebraska.
Oklahoma, Nebraska. I like it. And this was a game that was one I felt like going to test Oklahoma's defense because we've been talking about how it looks improved, but they hadn't played an offense that was really worth mentioning. And we thought the Nebraska offense was very strong, even with the 1-2 or 1-3 start that Nebraska's had or whatever it is. The offenses look great. Casey Thompson, one of the best QBs in the country statistically. It's been the defense that's been losing them these games. So we thought, at least in this game, Oklahoma's probably going to win, but let's see how strong that defense is. And they held Nebraska offense at 6 points. So bravo, Oklahoma. We've never seen that. We've never seen a defense like this at Oklahoma, possibly.
We've never seen an Oklahoma defense like this in my time, at least. But no, I would say also Dylan Gabriel. I mean, hats off to him playing like. And it's funny because Aaron came on the show when you were out, and he said Oklahoma was one of my top teams. Dylan Gabriel is one of my top quarterbacks, and it's like, Aaron, hats off to you as well. You've predicted this well, my man. And I think Oklahoma is one of those teams that could be kind of scary. If you really think about it, it's a team that everyone kind of overshadowed. Lincoln left, USC's new power, Texas, all these other teams. And then you just see Oklahoma just sitting there with a very good defensive head coach. You have Michigan, who's we don't know about Michigan really because they played nobody.
Yeah,
We
I
don't
still
really
got
know
to
about
see
these other
Michigan
teams.
do it,
That's what I'm
dude,
saying.
against the
Michigan,
P5.
we don't really know. And now, do I think Oklahoma could beat Georgia, Alabama, or Ohio State? I don't think so at this point. But it's a team that I think could throw it up there with those three very easily, which we'll get to our rankings at the end of the show, as we always do. But yeah, man, what do you think about this? And what do you think about Oklahoma and just the offense and defense?
Yeah, I mean, offensively, we, we just talked about in this game, we're going to learn what the defense is made of, right? So, mission accomplished. Also, it was 14 points that Nebraska scored. I'm not 6, so I want to correct myself right there. But we are going to have to see, I guess, them score against more of a worthy defense now, because they've been scoring on UTEP, they've been scoring on Kent State, they've been scoring on Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
Next, I got to see what the offense is really made of. So they're going to get into conference play these first couple weeks, Ben, Kansas State and TCU, and then October 8th. So I think that's 3 or 4 weeks from now, or not 3. Yeah, maybe there's 3 weeks from now. They got Texas. Hopefully Quinn Ewers is ahead of schedule and can come back and play that game, because the Texas-Oklahoma game was not a matchup. I mean, it's usually one of the most exciting rivalry games in college football, but if Quinn can come back, dude, that game might be a little bit more highly anticipated than any of us could have expected.
Yeah, I'm excited. I love the Red River rivalry, and I just remember Gus Johnson, which, by the way, prayers to Gus Johnson. I know he was a little ill this weekend. We love Gus. Josh and I love Gus Johnson here on the show, but no, Gus Johnson. I remember that call where Dicker, the kicker. That's the only call I'll remember for so long, when the Texas kicker hit that game winner against Oklahoma. I hope it's going to be a great game this year. Again, I want to see Oklahoma. I want to see them. Nebraska's a good team, but I want them to play against a very tough opponent, because I want to see what they're made of. Same with Michigan. Like, I don't know what Michigan's made of. They're averaging 50-some points a game. They haven't played anybody. I have no idea what they're made of. So we'll see.
I will tell you what, though, I am kind of rooting for this Oklahoma team, low key, just because.
Of course you are.
Lincoln Riley let me tell you, Lincoln Riley really set them up to fail, dude. Him and all his assistants were recruiting for USC while they were at Oklahoma. They rated them in the transfer portal. Like, this Oklahoma team wasn't supposed to succeed, dude. It was left to die.
Yeah.
Maybe not by like, Oklahoma's still Oklahoma, so you figured that they could go 8-4 or 9-3. But man, what if they could come in here and go 11-1 or 10-2? I don't think anybody would have saw that coming.
Yeah, do you really think that? I don't think either of us thought Oklahoma would be here.
No.
After Lincoln left, I think we both thought, it's over. The dynasty's over. Moving on.
Yeah, Lincoln left, recruited for USC while he was there.
Yeah,
took half
literally
the team with him. Took all his coaches. Like, he literally screwed Oklahoma so much.
And then Venables came in and said, "This is my team. We're going to take it over. We're going to create this into like the Stoops era again," which I think is going to be really, really fun to watch. Now, Josh, there was another game that took place that involved good old Georgia. And my man Stetson Bennett, who I had been against for so many weeks, and then I put him in my Heisman watch, and yet here comes Georgia once again, doing their thing, made Spencer Rattler look like the quarterback we all know he is, which is a terrible quarterback, and Stetson Bennett just made like my pick like so much nicer now, because I feel like now I can put him in the top 5, and I don't feel like I'm going to be doing that because I'm ashamed.
You can, dude. And the reason for that, I mean, Georgia, we've been talking about, we got to see Oklahoma prove it. We got to see Michigan prove it. Georgia has proven it against South Carolina and Oregon, which, yeah, they may not be the best teams in the country, but they're better than what most teams have played. Those two are better than any team Ohio State's played. Maybe better than any 2 teams Alabama has played this season. Better than any 2 teams Michigan's played, Oklahoma, like Clemson. You go down the list. Georgia has been the most tested through 3 weeks so far. And they look even better than their team last year, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And credit to Stetson Bennett. I don't know what the heck happened in the offseason, dude. but I thought that Kirby was making a mistake moving on from JT Daniels, starting this guy. Jermaine Burton certainly thought that it was a mistake, transferred over to Alabama. The running backs, Zamir White and James Cook, who they offense really relied on last year, go pro. So it's like, okay, what's the Georgia offense going to look like? And it's even better in spite of all that, dude. Also, Brock Bowers, I'm going to say it again,
Brock
best
Bowers
tight end
is,
in college
dude,
football, dude.
unreal. Brock
They're
Bowers is
doing things with
unreal.
him that Florida was doing with Aaron Hernandez, dude.
And it's just unreal to me. Just like it really is. And I think we'll never see that. Like, I don't know if we'll see two really good tight ends at one place again. Like, they can start with any program.
Yeah, like the last time we saw this, it had to have been the Miami days with Kellen Winslow and Jeremy Shockey, dude. I don't think there's been a duo.
Well, Florida had Hernandez and what's his face? There was another guy they had. I can't remember his name now, but Florida had
Jordan Reed.
No, was that Jordan Reed?
It wouldn't have been if it was Jordan Reed. It was years later. They never were on the same team, I don't think.
Yeah, but with that, I would say this: Georgia's defense is stupid, and I mean that in a nice way. Like, it's a good stupid. Like, it's just how like you lose 7 first rounders, and it's like they just
6 or 7, and they just reloaded, dude.
Reloaded.
We knew that. Well, we knew the talent was in the building, right? With the way that they recruited, I just thought that the lack of experience was going to be a problem, and at least to date, it hasn't been.
Yeah, it is mind-boggling to me, but it's also
watching this Georgia team, dude, is just making me so excited for the world's largest cocktail party, dude. Sarcasm. And that's a perfect segue into the Florida Gators, dude. So let me go ahead and throw some Anthony Richardson stats out here, dude, because he still hasn't earned his nickname after this performance. Against South Florida, Anthony Richardson, 10 of 18, 112 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks, 7 carries for 24 yards on the ground. This guy, Ben, through 3 games, has 423 passing yards and 0 touchdowns to go with 4 interceptions.
Oh my!
His QBR is 35.9, which ranks 104th in the country. That QBR, that's out of 100. So he's 104th. You know who has a better QBR right now? TJ Finley at Auburn has a better QBR right now, which is 55.3 than Anthony Richardson. It's just mind-boggling, dude. This was a game I saw the score flashing when I was at the Horseshoe, and I was just like, man, dude, why is this game this close? South Florida, I know Gary Bohannon and everything, but the defense contained him very well. But South Florida outplayed Florida almost everywhere on the field, dude. 6 more first downs for South Florida. They had 73 more total yards. They had 13 more minutes time of possession. They held Florida to just 7 second-half points. They went 8 for 15 on third down and 2 for 2 on fourth, while Florida went just 3 of 8 on third down and didn't convert any fourth downs, but didn't attempt any. And then I just pointed over to Anthony Richardson again, dude. I don't know what the heck happened in that Utah game that made him just look like a football god out there, because against Kentucky and against South Florida now, too. I mean, Kentucky, respectable, borderline top 25 team. I think they're kind of overrated right now. And as the season goes on, that'll show. But this South Florida team, dude, should not have hung with them this long. And I got to pin the blame for these two on Richardson, dude. I got to see that Kentucky game. I didn't get to see any of this South Florida game, but I imagine it was a lot of the same that we saw in that Kentucky game as to why they lost. I can't really find anything that lacked other than Anthony Richardson. The running game looked great. Defense was solid, containing Gary Bohannon, South Florida quarterback. But
I mean, so he doesn't earn the AR-15 title back yet?
I think I let off with that. Yeah, after this game, he still hasn't earned that AR-15 name back, dude. And they got to play Tennessee. This was 3 straight night games at the Swamp that Florida played, dude. So the whole country got to see it on display. And now they're going to go to Tennessee next week. Face off against Hendon Hooker. And, well, we're probably picking the same, dude. This isn't one that we'll disagree on like the Panthers Browns.
I love Josh's back. The old Josh is back with Florida. Just back being depressed.
They're a top 25 team right now, according to the AP poll. They're 2-1, which is better than what I thought they would be still. But this team, dude, does not look anything like that Utah. I'm trying to figure out what this means for Utah, dude. Was this just
that's what I'm saying.
A bad week 1 game for Utah, or What
You
did
were getting some heat there for putting them in your top 5 power rankings still.
Yeah, well, here's the deal with Utah. I still think that they're going to run the table and win the Pac-12.
Yeah.
I still think that that's a possibility, and I think this is going to sound not so smart after everything I just said about Florida, but I really think that week 1 loss at the Swamp for Utah is not going to get looked at as badly by the end of the season as it did in the moment.
Yeah.
If they're 11-1, Ben, or 12-1 after winning the Pac-12, and the only loss was to Florida, people are going to be like, that's not even a bad loss. Let's put them in the playoff.
Let's quote it.
And that possibility is still there. Everything that I said about Utah that I liked, with Cam Rising coming back and all the talent at receiver, the defense producing NFL players all the time, all those things still ring true.
You know what?
That's why I still have Utah up there.
Josh here is spitting facts. You all listen now. Come back at the end of the year and just listen to what Josh said. Utah will
now,
be
if
there.
Utah goes and loses a game due to someone they shouldn't, I will rightfully so drop them out of my top 5, and they'll never reach my power rankings again. But right now, this is a power rating. Remember, this isn't a AP top 25 poll where we're only looking at like what's happened these first 3 weeks. So I think the potential for Utah to make the playoff is still very there and very strong.
Awesome. Now, Josh, is there any other games before we get into the Ohio State game, because we know you were there? Is there any other games you wanted to peek at, talk about briefly before we get in, other than the fact that Michigan State, who about made my top 5, got blown out? We won't talk about that. We'll just move on real quickly from that. Don't ever think I said that.
So I know you probably want to talk about Ohio State a lot, and I'll share my experience of being at the Horseshoe. So we'll just kind of quickly go through these next 3 that I had jotted down.
Do it.
Texas A&M and Miami. So Texas A&M pulls out the win here, 17-9. Very ugly offensive game. Miami played good enough to win this game, dude. They had 11 more first downs. Texas A&M 128 more total yards, but they also had 2 more penalties, and they committed the game's only turnover. Max Johnson, I said if he gets the start, that there's a good chance Texas A&M wins this game. He wasn't all that impressive, though. He just was 10 of 20 completing passes. Tyler Van Dyke on the Miami side, 21 of 41. And since I didn't watch this game, I have no idea if this was good defense or bad offense. I would trend towards the bad offense because we've already slammed Jimbo Fisher, dude, for being just average on offense. And the Miami, Tyler Van Dyke, potential there, right? But I think
he was a Heisman candidate. Thought he was a Heisman candidate.
I never said that.
I know.
Some other people have.
I'm just saying other people said that. That's what I'm saying.
Some other people have, yes. I think maybe perhaps overhyped. And 17-9, Texas A&M pulls out the win. So not that Jimbo Fisher was going to get fired if they lost this game, but he survives another day, dude.
Yeah, I agree with you.
A good bounce back from the Appalachian State game that they just got totally outcoached in.
I will say Jimbo is still in the hot seat for me. I don't think he's got out of the hot seat by this win by any means.
Not yet. They still got the grind that is the SEC West to go through, and they're taking on Arkansas next week. That is a home game for them.
But that doesn't mean anything. They lost to Appalachian State at home.
They did. So,
but yeah, that's a good game, though.
Yeah. Let's talk about Notre Dame against Cal. Notre Dame getting their first win this season. This was a game that I was watching over at Varsity Club before the Ohio State game started, just killing time. And Cal actually led this one at halftime and then was still up 17-14 after the third quarter. Michael Mayer scores a go-ahead touchdown here for Notre Dame, dude, with 9 minutes to go. So still plenty of time for Cal to respond. And on the final drive, they're marching down, dude. And it looks like Notre Dame seals it with a pick six. But after further review, Jack Plummer, the quarterback, they said his knee was down, so it was just a sack. And then Cal gets the ball for 2 more plays. First one falls incomplete. The second one, it was tipped about 3 or 4 times in the end zone, and you're just holding your breath like, is Cal going to catch this and win the game? And it hit the ground incomplete. Notre Dame gets their first win of the season. So props to Marcus Freeman, man.
Yeah,
even though Notre Dame only averaged 3.6 yards per carry against a team they should have manhandled, even though they had a backup quarterback, Drew Pine, dude. Notre Dame comes out. I picked Cal to win this game, and Notre Dame came out, and I know we shouldn't be praising them for beating Cal, but they finally beat a team that they should have, right?
Yeah. No, I give it props to Freeman. I mean, he deserves it. He deserves to get off a little bit of the hot seat a little bit. He deserves to get out of the limelight a little bit. But I think, at the end of the day, I think they're going to be fine. I've been kind of still shaky about it. I kind of want them to do well because I'm a Ohio State fan. I'm like, can you please win like 8 games at least? So at least it looks like our win was good. But
Yeah.
yeah, overall, I think it was a tough game. But again, it was at home, right? Yeah, I believe it was at
That
home,
was a
right?
home game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's a good win. It's a good way to get on your feet, and I think going into some of these next games, it'll be a very key win for them down the line.
Oh yeah. And then the final one, just to kind of talk about Penn State rolling at Auburn, dude. And I mean rolling. This was a
Dude, it was a bloodbath.
This was a game that was only 14-6 halftime score, Penn State up, and then they cranked it up a notch in that second half, dude. 27-6,
The
they outscored
Cranes are
Auburn.
probably very mad right now.
Oh, that was the one thing I was thinking about, dude. Like halftime being down 14-6, you had to have felt pretty good about that.
Oh
But
my goodness,
man, dude, and Penn State did on the ground. Last year they had a terrible run offense. It's looking like it's taken some steps forward this year. Nick Singleton, 5-star freshman, I believe, 10 carries, 124 yards, 2 touchdowns. Katron Allen, 9 carries, 52 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then on the flip side, Auburn, whose bread and butter is running the ball, Tank Bigsby, he only had 9 carries for 39 yards. So Penn State outrushed Auburn 245 to 119 at the end of the day here. They also forced 4 Auburn turnovers while committing none. And this has also been the first time that Penn State's offense has put up at least 40 points on a Power 5 opponent since it did so in the 2020 season with a 56-21 win over Illinois. Penn State has been exceeding my expectations, dude. After 2 straight disappointing seasons, and then even going into this game, this was a game that I thought was going to be very telling for me because I just kind of saw Penn State as basically the same level as Auburn, just kind of average, not meeting expectations. Similarly, low scoring offense, get it more done on the defensive side of the ball lately. But now Penn State, dude, they just got to play Central Michigan and Northwestern before heading into Michigan. They could be undefeated going into that game.
and
So Penn State, I mean, even Sean Clifford, they didn't need him to be super spectacular in this game.
Forever.
Clifford didn't throw any touchdown passes this game, but like I said, with the way that they ran the ball, they didn't need him to in this one at least. So I think that's still a concern, seeing the way that he's played in the team's first couple of games. But Penn State as a team, dude, as a unit, looks to be playing way better this season.
Hey,
than what they have in the past
take
couple.
back my comments. I said that James Franklin will probably be fired this year. It was on the hot seat. I think he's kind of turned that. Maybe they listened to our show, Josh, and he got really mad. I don't know. But I will say is that Penn State's running game again off the level. Also, it seems like Clifford's been there since like 2010. I don't know. He's been there forever. But this team, though, I'm telling you, people kept saying Michigan had an easy schedule, which they do. But if there's one game before the Ohio State game that could be a slip up for Michigan because Michigan really won't have played anybody until Penn State. This could be where Penn State kind of does this whole upset thing, and then you're looking at Michigan go. And I'm not saying it will happen. I'm just saying this is a game that Michigan could get upset by.
Yeah. I mean, Michigan plays Penn State, Michigan State back-to-back weeks, and that was
one of
when
those
the
games.
Season started. I was like, they're probably going to lose one of these games, and then they're probably going to lose to Columbus and go 10-2. That was what I kind of saw happening at least.
Hey, I know is that Auburn. I'm sorry, Cranes. We love you, but it is. I'm sorry. It is sorry.
Maybe Brian Harsin. We didn't talk about Brian Harsin, dude. But I mean, he definitely on that hot seat too.
He might be on the edge of that hot seat. Like
I just thought 2 seasons. Like if they fired him in the middle of the season, he didn't even make it 2 full seasons at Auburn, dude. And the reason I didn't put him on my list is because it just seemed way too early. That's why I wasn't gonna flirt around with names like Marcus Freeman and Brian Kelly, like first year guys. Same thing with Harsin. Like this is only a second season. I thought Auburn might give him more time, but maybe it won't be the case.
I have no idea, but all I know is that it is crazy out there. But that leads us, Mr. Burris, to your experience at the Ohio State University and at Ohio Stadium. Tell us about it and give me your thoughts on the game. You were there. You are a reporter. No, I'm kidding. No, he wasn't. He was just enjoying the time. But
no, I'm not cool like 5th and goal, man. I don't get to cover these games.
I know. You would love it, though.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll tell you what. Really, the one complaint I had as a fan at this was the parking situation.
Oh, yeah,
Columbus,
the parking
dude.
sucks. It's
so bad. Every
so
parking
bad.
lot I would drive by either would say RV only or permit only. And I was just like, where the heck are the normal fans supposed to park?
Do you know where we park? You know where we park, Josh?
Did you park over by Jesse Owens?
Not even there. We park at this like mall area, and then like you're by a restaurant. You have to like buy something at the restaurant sometimes, and there's like other places. There's a shuttles, like you can park near the gymnasium and get shuttled over. Dude, it is a nightmare to park at Ohio Stadium. It's a nightmare.
I parked over at by the Jesse Owens track complex, and it was a 25-minute walk to the horseshoe from there. But That was the first lot that I found that
Did
was
you go to
normal.
Skull Session? Did you go to Skull Session?
No, I don't even know what that is, dude.
It's basically where they hype up the team in the old arena for the basketball arena, and it's like so loud, it's amazing.
Oh,
I'm very sad that you didn't do that. It's very
didn't even
depressing.
know that was a thing. But yeah, I walked
I'm
by the
sorry.
Schottenstein Center, so I could have if you said that's where it's at.
No, it's actually it's near the Schottenstein Center because it's the old arena since the Schottenstein Center
Oh,
is the new one. So
got it. Yeah. That's my one complaint, dude. Because when I went to games at Notre Dame and Michigan, and I'm going to compare it to those two because those are
of
big time
course,
college football situations too. Ann Arbor and South Bend are two not big cities. The schools are actually kind of in normal
yeah,
neighborhoods, like
yeah,
people's
yeah.
houses and stuff like that. So I was actually able to find parking very easily. I parked in people's yards at both places, and it was super easy getting in and out. I mean, I paid to park there, right? Like they offered their yard for parking. We're making
Which is
extra
genius, by
cash.
the way.
Yeah, they get to make probably close to 5 to 10 grand during the football season
That's
by doing
genius.
that. But super easy finding parking in those places, getting in and out. Much closer to the stadium than a 25-minute walk as well. So that's the
Yeah,
one thing I'll complain about is that the parking lots that were close to the stadium were permit only, and I had to walk very far away. But that also could be due to the way that Columbus is set up too, because it's a city. There's
yeah,
not really many people's yards you can park in because there's no houses. It's all businesses. It's all private lots and stuff like that. So that's probably why. But in terms of the game experience, and I've only been to 6 college football stadiums, Ben, but the band, top notch, nothing
dude,
touches the Ohio
unreal.
State marching band. They say they're the best stand band in the land, and they did at halftime
It's
this
unreal.
performance where they were showing the top 10 moments at Ohio Stadium because it's like the 100th
Yeah, it
anniversary or
is. Yeah,
something like that. And very good show. Dot in the eye, always a classic tradition in college football. So from that perspective, the whole performance as a whole, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed Michigan, dude. And I think I'm trying not to let this play into my judgment too much, but the Michigan game, they were playing Washington. It was also a net game. It was a maze out. It was on national TV, but Washington, definitely a better opponent than Toledo. The
yeah,
score was much closer. I felt like since I was closer to the field as well, I was around a lot more rowdy fans
yeah,
over at
yeah.
Michigan. And I'm trying not to let those things play in, but I just had a lot more fun at Michigan. But Ohio State, I'll throw them at number 2 for sure. Notre Dame right behind them, just because at Notre Dame, I didn't feel like there was much, uh, much to note over there. Like there
Yeah.
wasn't anything that I was like, wow, that's really cool that Notre Dame does that here. Other than like when they score a touchdown, they like shoulder press
Yeah,
people in the
yeah,
air
yeah.
like 7 times or whatever. Like that was one thing that I haven't seen anywhere else. That's Notre Dame's thing, I guess. But uh, yeah, I'll put Michigan 1, Ohio State 2, Notre Dame 3 for there. But I'm trying not to let those external factors judge. I'm sure if Ohio State was playing a Big Ten opponent and it was a much closer score, the fans might have been a little bit more energized, but I felt like they kind of just were chill where we were sitting at higher up in the stands too. But also, man, that offense,
Is unreal.
unreal, dude. Like the offense, and I know we can't take too much away from a game against Toledo, but this is what I took away is that the offensive line so freaking good because no matter who was running the ball, whether it was Travion Henderson or Mayan Williams
TC Coffee.
or Coffee or whoever the heck the other walk-ons were that were getting carries as the game went on, they were all rushing over 6-7 yards a carry. It didn't matter.
Unreal.
And CJ Stroud got sacked 0 times, was under no pressure. So that's one thing I think you can take away is the running backs, they're all going to get theirs because the offensive line is good. And it doesn't matter who's back there. The offensive line is going to open up holes for them, whether it's Mayan, Travion, or whoever.
Yeah, I'll tell you, man. The fact that Smith and Jigba was back, he had 2 catches. You know who I believe, and I'm going to say this now, right now. I've been high on Smith and Jigba, but I'm going to say it right now. The best wide receiver on the Ohio State Buckeyes right now is Marvin Harrison Jr. That is the best wide receiver on the Ohio State Buckeyes right now. That man, the way he catches the ball, Julian Fleming making some ridiculous catches. Oh, by the way, Cade Stover, he's 6'3" and like 450 pounds. The dude's
Dude, I was
jacked.
surprised by that kid the most in the receiving group because tight end, they're
Former
throwing it
defensive end,
downfield.
former
Yeah,
defensive end.
that too. And they're throwing him the ball downfield, dude.
I know it's awesome to
Not
see the
just for a
tight
little
end.
check down.
Exactly.
They were gunning it down to him.
I'll say this: my thoughts. I won't spend too much time because I know you guys have heard my thoughts because this would have come out after I gave my Buckeye breakdown. But I simply say this: 3 things. One, I think this Ohio State offense is starting to pick up pace. I think hopefully Trayvon's not out too long. Hopefully these guys get healthy. And the offensive line stays healthy. When this team offense is healthy, I believe this team will put up 45 to 50 points every single game. I believe that. Second thing I've noticed is that I am very scared to play a dual threat quarterback still as an Ohio State fan.
Like J.J. McCarthy?
Like J.J. McCarthy. And that's why I believe this was very good for Ohio State to experience this early on against a quarterback who, by the way, is not a bad quarterback, a very good quarterback who played very good with a very bad team. And I'm very nervous about that.
He kept the defense on their heels, dude.
Exactly. But we also have to remember, though, Josh, we have to remember that Ohio State was out their top 2 safeties. They were also out a top corner. They were also out, I believe, 1 or 2 defensive linemen as well. So their defense was pretty banged up, as well as some of their offensive skill guys.
I know Burke got burned for 1 deep ball.
Yeah, well,
Cam Brown got burned for 1 deep ball. So those things are still, I guess, concerns.
Yeah, but I would say this: the defense.
If you wanted to nitpick,
the defense looked better. And so then the third and final thing would be is that TC Coffee or however you say his name should be on scholarship starting tomorrow. That man looked like a bowling ball that just bounced off people, turned around and ran. By the way, fun fact, in high school, he ran for over 6,000 yards. I just want to point that out. Decided to go as a walk-on at Ohio State and not go somewhere else to play. But overall, Ohio State, great game. I predicted a win. Didn't think it was going to be this big of a win, but 77 points is where it's at. I believe for Wisconsin game, I'm going to go ahead and throw out my prediction for the Wisconsin game, Josh, because why not?
While you're at it too, I got some other big week 4 matchups we can talk about too.
I will throw out my Wisconsin matchup. I want to get your thoughts on the Ohio State Wisconsin game. This is my thoughts. I believe Ohio State's going to win 38-17 is what I'm going to go with. I think they'll give up some points, but I think it's going to be a 38-17 win, Ohio State.
38-17 sounds good. I'll slightly off just so I can be different and maybe right, therefore, and get a leg up on you. But I'm gonna give Ohio State's offense 45 in this one. That's probably a little bit more than what normal Wisconsin defenses give up. But I'm gonna go ahead and give Ohio State 45. And you're very high on Braylon Allen.
Yes, I am.
I'm gonna give 24 to Wisconsin.
45-24. Let's do it. Oh, also while we're doing scores in Ohio, why don't we talk about the Browns score real quick? We're gonna pause real quick because I'm gonna do the Browns score because I'm gonna win.
Browns Steelers
Thursday night. I'm predicting Browns squeak out a win 17-16. So I'm saying they're squeaking out a win. And it's going to be ugly, but they're going to squeak one out. So I'm going to say Browns win. Josh, are you going against me? Or are you going? Remember, you're a game down, by the way. So
yeah. Well, here's what I know: the Steelers defense. I think, even though they lost to New England,
they don't have T.J. Watt though.
Yeah, but they held New England's offense to, I think it was just 16 points.
Yes.
They held the Bengals to 20 points in an overtime game the week before. So the Browns offense, which I see as around New England's level, definitely worse than Cincinnati's offense. I'm going to give us 14, and I'm going to say that Pittsburgh kicks a game-winning field goal and comes away with a 17-14 win.
This is Josh's risk. If he
this is my risk, then I'm down 2 against
you're down 2,
or I can even it out.
Or you can even it out. This would be a good one. Anyways, let's get
to
these. Let's do rapid fire.
Yeah.
Let's do some rapid fire college football, and then we'll get into our Heisman and power rankings. Let's do rapid fire. Let's predict these games. Let's do like radio. This feels like radio. So let's do rapid fire.
So let's go with Texas at Texas Tech.
Oh, Texas at Texas Tech. I'm going to go Texas 24, Texas Tech 20.
Man, I'll take Texas in this one. I don't know what kind of score we're going to get. I know they just put up a 41 on UTSA with Hudson Card playing QB, right? So I think Texas can go like 35-24 here.
Ooh, nice. Next one. Let's do this. I feel good. I feel like I'm getting a race right now.
All right. Clemson at Wake Forest.
Ooh.
Sam Hartman is healthy.
Yes, he's healthy and back. Ben's going to do it here. I'm going to go Wake Forest 31, Clemson 28. Wake Forest 31, Clemson 28.
This is the tough part, dude, because Wake Forest has no defense whatsoever. I feel like if they win, it's going to have to be in a shootout. So I'm going to go ahead and say Wake Forest as well, but 48-45.
Ooh, there we go. Yeah,
right.
I like that though. Yeah.
Next on the agenda, we touched on this earlier, but Arkansas at Texas A&M.
Oh, Arkansas. It's going to be 30,
Really?
34, 24.
See, here's my concern is Arkansas, while they've had one of the tougher schedules so far in the country, playing teams like South Carolina and Cincinnati, they had to fight back with 21 fourth quarter points to win against Missouri State. So
that's true. Yeah.
I feel like this team has done well for as tough as the schedule they've had so far to start the year, but it's only going to get tougher from here. So I'm going to go ahead and say this is going to be a low scoring game. Texas A&M pulls away with a 24-21 win.
Ooh,
being the home team, I think Kyle Field will give them that advantage.
Ooh, we went contradicting on that one. All right. Any others you got there? Or is that it?
Yes, two more to talk about.
Two more. Let's do this.
USC at Oregon State, 2-3-0 Pac-12 teams, dude, facing off here.
Yeah, this is not even a question. USC 42, Oregon State 24.
That's about what I would say too. I'm going to go ahead and give exact same prediction, exact same score. And we already touched on this one earlier too. I was talking about Florida at Tennessee. I think Tennessee is going to win. I don't want to say relatively easy, but it's not going to be a pretty game. I'm going to go ahead and give Tennessee 38 here, and I'm going to give Florida 24.
I'm going to give I'm kidding. No, Tennessee's going to win. They're going to win 45. Florida's going to score 38. It's going to be 45-38. It's going to be a shootout.
High scoring. Brave of you to assume Anthony Richardson scores that many points, dude.
I'm predicting, though, that AR-15 throws 4 picks in this game.
And they're still going to somehow score 30-something points. Okay.
I don't know how.
That's how bad Tennessee's defense is, I guess. At the same time, even though they're picking them off 4 times. But last game here, Baylor at Iowa State.
I believe in Iowa State, and I'm going to say Iowa State wins 20-17.
See, Baylor had that loss to BYU, and I think it was double overtime. And Iowa State also had a disappointing loss to Iowa. Or no, they beat Iowa. My bad.
They beat Iowa, yeah.
Who is their disappointing loss to? Because they're 2-1. I gotta find this out.
Who dare you think Iowa can win?
Yeah, they shouldn't, right? So let me find this out real quick while we're talking. I'm gonna continue to talk and kill time as I find this score, because it was a game that they should have won that kind of shocked us all. But I gotta find it, dude. So yeah. But anyway, as I was saying, Baylor, I think, lost a game that they feel like they shouldn't. And Iowa State also lost a game that I feel like they shouldn't. I got to find it, dude. Where the heck is it at? Where's the Iowa State schedule?
Oh, this is great. This is what happens, guys, when you start shooting off things.
Just shooting off, man. I thought I was set. Also, I'm an idiot. Iowa State hasn't lost any games yet, dude. Man, I really thought they lost one. I must be thinking of another team, but okay.
Oh, this is great.
Well, Iowa State's undefeated, dude.
Yeah,
they're 3-0.
That's why I said.
Taking on
Iowa
Baylor.
State. I just was waiting for you to figure it out. I was just waiting on the Iowa State.
Oh wow,
Iowa State.
I hate you.
I'm sorry.
Okay, let's see. Anyway, Baylor though, ranked number 17.
He's trying to find any saving grace right now.
No, this is just one that I'm very tough on, dude, because both of them have very good defenses. Baylor's averaging 14 points. Iowa State's been allowing only 9. Baylor's offense has been slightly more impressive. I'm going to go ahead and go with Iowa State here as well, dude.
Yes.
I think the stronger defense here is going to show out, and we're going to see a 4-0 start for Iowa State that maybe most people did not see coming.
I told you. Believe in Iowa State. So with that, we move into the best time of the week. By the way, just so you know, I haven't figured out who the guest will be this week to do their guest.
You want to get Jared since we've picked on him so much today?
Maybe we should choose Jared. Maybe I'll have Jared. Yeah, Jared, you actually probably will have known this by the time this comes out. But Jared, I think, will be the guest picker for both the rankings and the Heisman watch. So with that being said, we won't have the guest one on here, but we'll just do ours. So Josh, you had such a great list last week. And we both did, actually. Let's be honest. Let's start with power rankings this week. And I feel like nothing's changed in our top 3. But Josh, go ahead and give us what your last week's was, and then what this week will be for you.
Last week I went with Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, USC, Utah. And going into this week, that list for the first time is unchanged.
Ooh.
In order and in teams. I'm keeping Georgia at number 1. The way that they blasted
Yeah.
South Carolina, like we said earlier, they look the most impressive against the most impressive teams so far.
Yeah, they've looked
I'm
really
going to
good.
put Ohio State up there at 2. I have some reservations about Alabama still and a couple about Ohio State, but Bama's concerned me a little bit more. So I got them at 3. Then I got USC looking insane at 4. And then Utah, I explained why I think Utah is in these rankings, and I got them at 5.
Well, that is probably the quickest Josh has ever done his power rankings by
Yeah, not a
far.
whole lot to add. It's the same teams
Hey,
and for
there
the
you
same
go.
reasons.
For me, believe it or not, Josh, I do have one change. You would think I would have gone, 3 straight weeks?
Is Clemson finally out, dude?
Clemson's finally out of my top 5.
Thank God.
So last week was Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Alabama 3, USC 4, Clemson 5. But this week, I have Georgia at 1. I have Ohio State at 2. I have Alabama at 3. I have USC at 4 because I truly believe that USC is a top 4 team right now. And again, I think Georgia and Ohio State are a little bit above where Alabama is, and Georgia's above everyone. And then my 5th team, I'm going off the Aaron Lind example, and I'm actually putting Oklahoma at number 5. I spoke praise about them earlier in the show. I truly believe that Oklahoma and Dylan Gabriel, that team will be a top 5 team near the end of the year, and that's where I believe they are right now. So Dylan Gabriel and
I can see it, dude.
Number 5.
And I mean, again, there's teams like that Oklahoma team. There's teams like Michigan that some of our guests have thrown into the top 5, and I think they very well could be. There's just some things that I gotta see them do before I would do that. Like I gotta see Michigan against a team like Iowa, like a gritty defense.
Yeah.
I gotta see them against maybe an undefeated team like Penn State. We're going to start to get to see that because the Big Ten is opening up conference play starting week 4. And Oklahoma is going to start to play some of these Big 12 teams too, dude. So it's going to be exciting. And maybe we'll see some shifts there. Maybe Utah will finally pull out if one of these other teams like Michigan or Oklahoma shows me they can play this good against a conference opponent. But time will tell, man. Time will tell, man.
We shall see. And so Jared's will probably be coming at some point. You will have seen it. But anyways, with that, we're going to move into our last part of the show, which is our Heisman watch list. Josh, this is the best time because we just get to talk about some of our favorite players in college football that we think will be there at the end. And do you want to start or do you want me to start? What we got?
I'll go ahead and go.
All right, let's do this. So, what was yours last week and has yours changed?
Last week, I believe my order was C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Hendon Hooker, Devin Leary, and Drake May.
It was, yes.
And I got one new name on here.
Ooh.
One has fallen off. Devin Leary is off the list, dude. He had a game against Texas Tech. And, I mean, his stat lines just haven't been that impressive, dude. Like, he could go on and be one of the first 3 or 4 quarterbacks taken in this NFL draft. Intangibles, the arm talent and all that could be there, right?
Yeah.
But to win the Heisman, you need to have some numbers. And he still hasn't reached 300 yards in the game yet. I think he was actually sub 200 against Texas Tech, if I remember correctly. So I'm just taking him off the Heisman, dude. And he's going to have to fight like heck in this ACC schedule, dude, to get his name back into it. But the top 3 in mine are unchanged: C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker is going to get one of those nationally televised games everybody's going to be watching against Florida, and he's probably going to have a heck of a showing. CJ and Bryce, I don't think there's much to be said there. CJ Stroud looking just as insane as last year with the arm talent. Bryce Young still got that dog in him, still the defending winner, so he's going to be up there. Drake May bumped up from 5 to 4 for me. North Carolina didn't play last week, but I just bumped him up to 4 because I didn't want to hold him not playing against him. He still leads the country in passing touchdowns, so he is up at 4. Devin Leary has completely dropped out. And the new name that I'm going to throw in here, Ben, since I finally found a token non-QB to send off to the Heisman ceremony, is Raheem Sanders, the running back over Arkansas. He's 4th in the country right now in rushing yards with 440. And like we just said about Arkansas, he's been doing it against good teams. Cincinnati, South Carolina, up there averaging 6.7 yards a carry and 3 rushing touchdowns to go with it. So I feel like out of all the running backs right now, he's the one that's been playing teams actually worth mentioning. And for now, we'll see if he can maintain that pace against Texas A&M. That could be a potential Heisman moment for him.
You know, I love that list because we're finally seeing Josh throw some love to the running backs.
I want to do that. I really want to do it, but none of them have stepped up in a way that is making me like, wow, they actually could get an invite, because Josh, I feel like they have to be even more impressive than the quarterbacks.
Josh, I'm sorry that I'm going to be a hypocrite, but
5 QBs.
I might have dropped 5 QBs this week. So I have 5 QBs in my list, and my last week was CJ Stroud 1, Bryce Young 2, Hendon Hooker 3, Stetson Bennett 4, who I finally gave some praise to, and then 5 was Braylon Allen. Braylon Allen drops out. The only reason I really think he drops out is because he didn't have a great game last week. He didn't have that, that game that I was like, wow, that's impressive. And so he drops out, but my list is going to be this way. The top 3 have unchanged. CJ Stroud 1, I believe he's the best quarterback, best player in college football right now. Bryce Young, again, a good quarterback, threw 2 picks though this week. Worries me a little bit left and right. And then Hendon Hooker, again, has a big game coming up. I believe it's 3. But Stetson Bennett, who is at 4 for me, was very close to going up to 3. I was very close to moving him to 3. But Stetson Bennett, after all those months of me just ragging you, I hope that this is apology accepted for me keeping you in this list for multiple weeks now. So he's at 4. And number 5, oh, I hate that I'm going to do this. Caleb Williams is number 5 for me. And again, another guy that I just destroyed for many months. I am now opening the book back up and saying, please show me your way. And so Caleb Williams from USC, I just think he's been very good. I mean, he's been good for what he's been played against. So I'm really interested to see how he does, but he's number 5 for me. And I'm excited to see what he does. I mean, it's good to see him better than he was last year, but we'll see as it gets tougher to see what happens.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys I think that could be making cases as the year goes on, like Caleb Williams.
I'm a hypocrite.
Dude, if Caleb Williams still continues to ball out on the Pac-12 schedule, there's a really good chance that he gets an invite. Stetson Bennett being the quarterback on the best team in the country, that almost always means invite.
Yes.
JJ McCarthy, if Michigan can at least go 11-0 going into Columbus.
I just can't put him on there.
Yeah, I'm holding off on JJ until, again, like I see him do something against a team worth mentioning, but he definitely could earn an invite. Yeah, there's just a lot of them that might be we might start seeing some shifts, dude, because I think right now you and I aren't really paying much attention to stats, just as long as the guys that we had on our preseason list have been playing like Heisman winners. We're going to keep them there. But once the conference play starts going on, I think we're going to see a lot more shifting going on.
I agree. And it's been, I think, a great two lists. Jared's list will obviously be coming out because I will make sure as we're recording this, I'll make sure I messaged him so it's out when we have it. But those will be coming out. Again, look ahead. This will be coming out. I believe this is out on a Wednesday. I think this is when it's out, or Tuesday, one of the 2 days. But look forward to the next weekend when the Buckeyes play Wisconsin. You'll hear my Buckeye breakdown next weekend coming up. You also hear many of our thoughts to our Instagram. Make sure you follow our Instagram at baseline.podcast. It's a great place to kind of keep up with what's going on. We put polls out there. We see who was right, who was wrong, everything in between. So keep an eye on that. And if you also enjoyed watching this podcast, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. That allows us to see this. You can see all of our rants. So that way in 10 years, when you think about how bad the Browns have been, you can hear this rant that I just did today. So with that, and also you can also hear all the other things about baseball, everything else. We talked about baseball last week, how the Reds still suck, and that's still true, and all the in between with that. And if you've loved this on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, make sure you give us a rating. And also on YouTube, you can comment who's better looking today, Josh or myself. I mean, obviously it's the beard for me. But hopefully you guys do enjoy what we're doing. Let us know what you want us to do. Segments. Maybe there's certain segments you would like us to do. I know Josh is always up for some new things and challenging us, and hopefully we'll have more guests on in the future and all that in between once everything gets figured out. So once again, Josh, it's been a good show, my man. Any final words for the people?
No.
That's the final word, is no. But no, everyone out there, enjoy a great weekend of college football, of NFL football. Enjoy some sports, whatever sport you love. Maybe it's cricket. I don't know. Just to go enjoy.
Maybe next time we're talking to Ben, we'll get to talk about Albert Pujols hitting 700 home runs.
Absolutely. So maybe that will happen. Let us know in the comments if you want to see that and all that and so much more. Thank you again for watching. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Until next time, we'll see ya.